All right, welcome everybody to this edition of Streets for All Happy Hour, lunchtime edition. You know, it's 5 o'clock somewhere. That's saying, well, in Paris, it's 9 o'clock where Carlos Moreno is. So we're super grateful for him staying up late in Paris and having a conversation with us. Before we get to our conversation with Carlos Moreno, we wanted to give you a few quick updates on what's going on here in Los Angeles. We're going to give you a quick update on the neighborhood council elections and what's going on there. We'll talk to you about progress on the San Vicente bike lane, as well as our initiative to extend the Ballona Creek bike path. We'll give you an update on some of the state measures we're tracking, a few wins of the month, and then we'll get to our conversation with Carlos. So our icebreaker today is, and Carlos, this applies to you too, but I don't know how much time you spent in LA, so it's okay if you don't have an answer. What is your favorite place in LA to walk or explore on foot? So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Adrian, who is going to give us an update on neighborhood council elections and answer this very important question. Adrian.
Thanks, Michael. I love walking and exploring in Koreatown, which is where I live. But when I feel like venturing outside of my neighborhood, I love going to Chinatown and Alvera Street. So I'm going to update you on the neighborhood council elections. They're happening right now. And these are really important because neighborhood councils tend to be conservative and block progress on bus and bike lanes and many other issues. We've formed a coalition with several other progressive organizations to help flip neighborhood councils all over the city. It is too late to run in all of the regions. And it is too late to register if you are in regions 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, and 3. Today at 5 p.m. is the deadline to register in region 4. And that's in North Westwood, Studio City, NoHo, Greater Valley Glen, and Sherman Oaks. And we have endorsed candidates in those races. So if you are a stakeholder, please register. And this year, all the voting is being done by mail. You need to request your ballot in order to vote. So please do that. Even if you're a registered voter, you still have to register for your ballot. And we've had a lot of success with our endorsed candidates. In Region 5, 86% of our endorsed candidates won their race. In Region 6, we had an 83% success rate. In Region 7, 91% of our candidates won. And in Region 8, 100%. And same with Region 3. In Reseda, all of our candidates won. And we'll have more endorsements coming soon. I'm going to toss it over to Michael, who's going to tell you about the San Vicente bike lane project.
Thank you, Adrian. So my favorite place to walk in Los Angeles, it's kind of a cliche, but Griffith Park. I ride my bike up into Griffith Park, and I think I could explore a new trail a week and still not find them all before I died. It's just a massively beautiful place, and I love it. Okay, so you've heard me talk about this project ad nauseum. I apologize, but it is still a thing. To refresh your memory, in case you're not familiar, the San Vicente bike lane is on our 2035 mobility plan as a protected bike lane. The street has 1 extra vehicle lane. It has 3 in each direction compared to the normal 2 in Los Angeles, and it doesn't need that many based on the number of cars that use it. It plugs a key gap between Venice Boulevard and Wilshire Boulevard, and the street is being repaved in July. It used to be June, now it's July. So that is an opportunity to implement our mobility plan. This is what the street looks like today. And this is what we want it to look like. So you still have 2 vehicle traffic lanes. You have parked cars, and the parked cars actually act as protection for people using the curbside bike lane, including a buffer. So if somebody opens their passenger side door, they don't take out a cyclist at the same time. We've been really active in this project. We sent out a survey to people that live in the area. 86% were in favor of the change. With the Wilshire Vista Neighborhood Association, which is the largest neighborhood association in the area, 73% were in favor. Bunch of other community support. The Pico Neighborhood Council is still an unknown. However, all 5 candidates that we endorsed in their recent election won. And actually, the new president of the Pico Neighborhood Council is one of those candidates. So there's been some political changes at that neighborhood council that could really benefit the project. The bottom line is LADOT needs council office support before July, before the street is repaved, from both Council District 4, which is Nithya Raman, the north side of the street, and Council District 10, which is Mark Ridley Thomas, who controls the south side of the street. So there's also the dueling change.org petitions. The Bring Protected Bike Lanes to San Vicente has 506 signatures now, and the Save San Vicente, quite dramatic, and Keep All 3 Lanes has 339. So even on change.org, the vast majority of people are in support of these changes. So if you live in Council District 4 or 10, you can help by emailing the council office saying you support the bike lane. If you happen to live within the Pico Neighborhood Council borders, email the neighborhood council saying you support the bike lane. And LADOT will be hosting a town hall in June. We will let you guys know exactly when. Please show up and support the project. You can check out more at ladotlivablestreets.org/project/San-Vicente. And I'm going to give everybody now an update, or actually an introduction. I don't think we've talked about this before, on our initiative to extend the Ballona Creek bike path. So this is a project that we are spearheading along with partners, Ballona Creek Renaissance, Bike Culver City Forward, SWA, and others. The Ballona Creek bike path was originally constructed in the 1970s. If you haven't been on it, you're in for a treat. It is a bike, it's like a bike highway. There's no cars. And the initial idea of the project was to go all the way to where the creek ends at Cochrane and Venice. However, they phased it and they built phase 1 and never built phase 2. So the idea of this project is to complete it and extend the bike path to where the creek ends at Cochrane and Venice. This would be a fantastic way for people that live in West Hollywood, Koreatown, West Adams, anywhere in Mid-City to be able to get to Culver City, Santa Monica, and the West Side without a car. The stakeholders here, it's very jurisdictionally complicated. So you have part of it in Culver City, part of it on private property, part of it in the city of Los Angeles, and then we need Caltrans to play ball because we have to go under the 10 freeway. And this is also in Holly Mitchell's District 2 at the county level. And there's a federal layer to it with the US Army Corps of Engineers. So this is really an alphabet soup of bureaucracy. This is a map of the project. So you can see where the bike path currently ends. Bottom left is the park and all the different treatments that we would want to see to where it ends, where it would end at Cochrane and Venice. And I'll show you guys some visuals. This is the way it currently looks at the end of the bike path today. This would be a bridge over from the west side of the creek to the east side of the creek. Once we're over on the east side of the creek, this property is owned by a private company called Redcar. They're very excited about this. And so this is an opportunity for people space, amphitheater, go out and have coffee, lunch, etc. outdoors. Really beautiful. The path would then go up to Washington Boulevard on a very gentle slope. And it would be fairly straightforward until we get to the 10 freeway. Look at this. There are multiple on and off ramps at different grades, as well as the actual freeway. But we think it could look like this. This is a little bit tricky because you need the Army Corps of Engineers to get comfortable about if there's a big 100-year storm, that the water level would not rise to the point where the bike path would actually obstruct the water. But we're confident we can navigate that. Opportunity for greenification and art. Here's a close-up. Really beautiful, functional, new lighting. This is my favorite shot here. Just looks really beautiful and inviting. And then once you get past Fairfax, it's called Cologne Street, and part of it's paved, but most of it looks like this. This is one of the strangest streets I've ever seen in the area. It's still dirt. Probably it's been this way for 70 or 80 years. So we want to see it look like that. Again, bike path, drought-resistant plants and trees, opportunity for street furniture and lighting. And one of the things I'm most excited about this project is there would be a new park in a very poor part of the city. So currently the terminus looks like this, and we would love to see it look like that. So there's a very simple website at finishthecreek.com. We'll be announcing more stuff soon. Actually, Urbanize LA published about the project today, if you want to take a look. But we'll be in touch in how you can support the project. I'm going to turn it over to Bubba now to talk about state measures.
Hey, everybody. Thanks, Michael. My favorite place to walk in LA County, at least, is probably the Town Plaza in Culver City. It's just a really nice pedestrianized area right in the middle there. And you got the farmer's market that pops up there on Tuesdays. So we're going to go hit that later today. And I am, one thing that Streets for All is doing is really tracking the state measures that are coming through through the legislative process. And a lot of them are really encouraging changes, you know, for transportation equity and housing and other, you know, really exciting changes. And just before we get into what those laws actually are, I wanted to do just a quick round of TLDR Schoolhouse Rock for everybody. So you probably already know this, but it works a lot like it does on the federal level in our state government. So we have a bill. He's just a bill, and he starts out in the basically whatever house it's introduced, so the Assembly or the Senate, and goes through committee. And once it kind of passes through that first policy committee, where they decide, you know, they basically judge the bill on the merits of its policy. It moves on to a fiscal committee, which is the committee of appropriations for that house, and then it's then moves on to the floor of that house, whether it's the Assembly or the Senate, and gets a vote. That at that point, it moves on to the committee process, and the whole process is repeated for the second house. And if that bill, of course, is ever amended, it needs to go back kind of through the process or into a committee to kind of resolve those amendments and make sure that both houses are aligned on whatever amendments are made. Once that's done, it goes to the governor's desk for either a signature or a veto, where it then becomes law. And so if you go to the next slide, these are kind of the exciting measures that we're tracking right now. So these are the ones in the committee process. So they have not been voted, they have not passed through the policy committee yet, but a Senate bill to allow for cameras on school buses to sort of enforce cars not going around school buses endangering school kids. And then one bill in the Assembly for automated speed safety cameras, just to, you know, start to take police out of traffic enforcement. So to be able to ticket those who are speeding automatically. And then these have already passed out of their policy committee. They're now going to the Committee on Appropriations, but abolishing parking minimums near transit. So within a half mile of transit, having 0 parking minimums there, which will allow for denser housing, of course, and less sprawl and less traffic around those areas. And then decriminalizing jaywalking. You know, as we know, jaywalking was created in the 1920s by car companies to shift the blame to pedestrians for car accidents. And so this bill would decriminalize jaywalking. And so that's going to the fiscal committee next. And these have already passed out of the fiscal committee. Cameras on buses to ticket those cars parked illegally in bus lanes automatically. And then a bill to allow cities to make slow streets permanent and control traffic even on state highways. So that's really exciting for the Slow Streets program that you know, Streets for All had such a large hand in last year and continues to support. So these have already passed out of the Assembly and are going to the Senate now, legalizing the Idaho stop, which is allowing cyclists to use stop signs as yield signs, which, you know, makes cycling more efficient. And of course, cyclists do not have near the safety, do not threaten the safety nearly to the degree that an automobile would. So that has already seen success in a lot of other cities. And a bill to allow cities to set their own speed limits. Right now, there's quite an antiquated law that really makes it difficult for cities to set their own speed limits, and states have basically set speed limits for cities, and it's very difficult for cities to change those. And this would allow them to, by and large, reduce speed limits across the city, which would be a huge help to safety. We'll keep tracking these bills, and if you'd like to get involved in this process, go to streetsforall.org/get/-involved and sign up for our updates, and we'll let you know when we really need you to, you know, send in a letter or, you know, give your representative a call to get a bill through committee or get a vote passed in either house. Thanks, and I'm going to turn it over to Kyle for the wins of the month.
Thanks, Bubba. So to start off, my favorite place to walk in LA is probably Leimert Park Village. It's really cool on a Sunday afternoon, a lot of culture, a lot of good food and music, and it's just a fun place to be. And if you haven't been there, it's closed off, so it's all pedestrian traffic for that stretch. It's just a really pleasant experience. So excited about the 3 wins of the month we have. So starting off with Santa Monica and Main Street there. So a couple weeks ago, the city council there voted to close off Main Street for the weekend starting this summer. So this is another pilot project that will help demonstrate what happens when you give street space back to pedestrians, back to people, and dispel notions about the negative impacts to businesses and any other arguments. And we're happy to see something like this to help demonstrating these impacts. So next up, we have Beverly Hills Complete Streets Plan, which is their first rollout of a Complete Streets Plan. And of course, we're excited about this because historically, Beverly Hills is known to be conservative on transportation. And so we're excited to see where this goes and excited to see a detailed plan like this. You can see the new mayor, Bob Wunderlich, there pictured in office with his bicycle. And this is one of the first pictures he took. And we understand that he bikes to his office sometimes. So we're encouraged by leadership like this, and we think this will have this is good omen for actual implementation of the plan in the coming years. We're definitely going to keep an eye out on it. Finally, we're excited about the growing support for Venice Blvd For All. We anticipated this support from Culver City since several blocks of the proposal overlap Culver City, 3 blocks to be exact. And of course, Culver City, if you've been there, you've seen how they've implemented the pilot of their own, which is really nice. But now we also have support from the Mid-City Neighborhood Council. Excited to see more and more support for Venice Blvd For All. And it's notable because this is the first true complete street plan in the city of LA with dedicated bus and bike lanes and sidewalk and crosswalk improvements, something that I didn't realize myself. If you're like me, you may think of a past pilot or pop-up that wasn't really permanent. You may think of a partial improvement like Figueroa downtown, or places outside of LA proper like Culver City and Santa Monica. So to get something in LA proper, it paves the way for future complete streets projects all over the city in places where they're most needed. And now I'll kick it back to Michael, who's going to introduce our special guest.
Great, thank you, Kyle. So before we get to Carlos, June preview, Tony Tavares is the new Caltrans District 7 director. Caltrans, the California Department of Transportation, still has an enormous amount of influence in Los Angeles, including Lincoln Boulevard, parts of Santa Monica Boulevard, et cetera, are still technically state highways. So this should be a really interesting conversation, June 9th at 5 p.m. So I'm so excited now to chat with Professor Carlos Moreno. Professor Moreno created the 15-minute city. He's also a key advisor to Anne Hidalgo. He's a world-renowned researcher and an associate professor at Paris IAE, Panthéon-Sorbonne University in France. He's also the co-founder and scientific director of the ETI Chair, Entrepreneurship, Territory, and Innovation. Professor Moreno earned recognition as a scientist with an innovative approach to issues that our cities face. He is known for his smart city concept and is now advising many cities around the world, including the mayor of Paris, Anne Hidalgo, where he's a special envoy. In fact, his concept of the 15-minute city was so influential, it was the theme of Mayor Hidalgo's re-election campaign, which she recently won. Carlos was awarded Knight of the Order of Legion of Honor in 2010 by the French Republic, and in 2019, he received the Foresight Medal by the French Academy of Architecture. And before I start asking him questions, I wanted to play everybody a 30-second video that Anne Hidalgo used in her campaign that was inspired by Carlos's work.
À Paris, les voitures individuelles représentent 12% des trajets, mais occupent plus de 50% de l'espace. Elles sont la première cause de pollution de l'air. Nous voulons rééquilibrer l'espace public pour réduire la pollution et rendre Paris aux piétons et aux vélos. Paris en commun propose une ville 100% vélo, remplacer 60 000 places de stationnement par des pistes cyclables et des espaces végétalisés.
So I don't think you have to speak French to understand how monumental that was. And there was even a bullet point there where part of her campaign said, we're going to remove 60,000 parking places. And she won. I want everybody to close their eyes and imagine a Los Angeles where a mayor runs for election based on the concept of removing tens of thousands of parking spaces and wins. So Carlos, thank you so much for being here.
It's a great pleasure. Thank you for your kind invitation.
So I'm going to ask Carlos some questions, and then as usual, we'll open it up to anyone that wants. There's the link up there, and I believe it's also going to get put in the chat if it's not there already. But I'm going to stop my screen share so we can have a conversation, and then we'll go back to it. So Carlos, the concept of making a city more time accessible is called chrono-urbanism. Can you explain what that means, and when did you first start studying that concept?
Yeah. In fact, thank you for your kind invitation. It's a real pleasure to be here this night for me, at noon for you. The chrono-urbanism, in fact, this is a very powerful concept based on academic research for a long time in order to imagine another rhythm for living in the city. We have been living for decades with urban rhythm based on a productivist city. In general, the development of the modern urbanism reality is based on to propose the longer distances for living and to use the public transportation or individual car, unfortunately, for going to the work. And in France, in Paris, the average is 2 hours for a round trip, 2 hours per day, 10 hours in a week, more than 1 day. Because the people consider that we could sacrifice, in fact, the time only for going from a home to my work. With the pandemic crisis, in reality, we have been observing a new work lifestyle. We have been emerging this possibility for working differently, in particular with digital and remote technologies. But our position with the mayor Anne Hidalgo is a position before the pandemic crisis. In reality, we consider that if we wanted to fight against the climate change, if we wanted to reach the carbon neutrality at the horizon 2050, if we want to reduce at least of 45% or 50% our CO2 emissions, we don't have the choice to change our rhythm of the life. And the key element for reducing this constraint to mobility is to rediscover the proximity. If we have the possibility to rediscover the material or immaterial resources, you have the possibility to explore the possibility for using differently our square meters in the proximity. You have the possibility to transform the streets into places for living. In fact, we could develop a new rhythm for having a useful time. In reality, our modern battle is to reconquer this useful time for living with a new pace. The pace of 15-minute city is the pace of the proximity. For me, for my family, for my friends, for my neighbor, for my work colleagues. We need to reconquer the useful time, and for that we need to reconquer the public space in the proximity.
What differentiates a 15-minute city from an existing dense walkable city? Or is there a difference? Is it all about density?
Yeah, in fact, this is a very, very good question. In reality, when we wanted to fight against climate change, we need to reduce the CO2 emission. For that, we need to, for example, reduce or to ban diesel cars and to transform the public spaces for having the walkable cities, for reconquer the public spaces, for having the peaceful street, for reconquer the biodiversity, for reconquer nature, for reconquer water, etc. This is the concept of livable city or walkable city. But we want to, with the concept 50-minute city, to go beyond that. What? Because my scientific contribution based on the 50-minute city, it's not only a question of the proximity by the short distances. In reality, the key element is to define a new social circularity for living in the proximity. What is this concept of social circularity? In fact, we have been developing with my research team a new urban ontology. The new urban ontology is how could we satisfy my essential needs for being happy in my district, in my neighborhood, in my city. And we have defined 6 essential urban social functions for being in a happy proximity. To live in the good conditions, to work in the proximity, to supply with the short circuits in the good conditions, to access to the health, mental and physical in my proximity, to access to education, culture, and to access to enjoy to my leisure with the nature and biodiversity. The difference between the walkable city and the 50-minute city is that the walkable city is a city for reconquer the public space, for reconquer the nature, for reconquer the biodiversity, rather than the 50-minute city. It's a crisscross approach for living differently in cities, to live, to work, to supply, to care, to educate, and to enjoy. We wanted to offer a new urban lifestyle. The walkability is one of these aspects. The bikeability is one of these aspects. The reduction of the CO2 emission is one of the aspects. But in general, we have 4 aspects: ecology, walkability, reduction of CO2 emissions. The second point, vicinity, to explore the proximity, to transform each one of the square meters into multi-purpose functions, to use more and better the square meters that existed with the intensive social functions. The third point, solidarity, to develop the strong social link, to develop the activities for kids, to take care of the fragile people, to reconquer the public space for gender equity, and to relocalize the local economy. And the fourth point is the citizen commitment, to offer the possibility for the neighbor in order to have the possibility to be involved in the placemaking, tactical urbanism, temporary urbanism, to transform a square, to transform locations, to transform a different place. And with the 4 aspects, ecology, proximity, solidarity, and citizen commitment, this is the kernel for offering this social circularity. Walkability is one of these aspects, but this is not the whole of this division. Our vision is how could we offer a high level of the urban quality life? This is our target.
That's a great explanation. Density seems to be a key part of this idea. Is all density good density in terms of time and access? I mean, I'm thinking about a place like Hong Kong that's incredibly dense, but I'm not sure I'd call it a 15-minute city.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a very good point for discussing, for reflecting. In fact, I consider in my last book, I explained about this strategy point. In reality, we need to clarify this idea because there are ambiguous point of view. We have two different things. The promiscuity. The promiscuity is a very, very bad thing for living in cities, because the promiscuity, this is the density by square meter in the unhuman conditions for living. We need to develop another concept. The concept in the city of Paris with the mayor Anne Hidalgo, the concept in Milan with the mayor Giuseppe Sala, the concept in Dublin, for example, this is the organic density. In reality, we need the density if we wanted to mutualize the services, if we wanted to socialize the functions, if we wanted to develop the multi-purpose functions, if we wanted to develop the social intensity, the density, the organic density is a density with the human scale. In fact, the organic density is at the same time to build with the organic materials, wood and the light and natural. We to have the green connectors in the different building, to have the nature, to have water, to have a fountain, to have the playground for kids, to use the public space and the private spaces for provoking the collisions for the people. We need to mix people. We need to develop the human contact. We need to break this loneliness and to stress of the anonymous life. The organic density in Paris is absolutely necessary. The city of Paris is the sixth density in the world, because it's the small city, 100 square kilometers for 2 million of inhabitants. But I think that when we have the possibility to develop the programs based on organic density, the sensibility, the emotional perception of people is very, very different when we have only the big building without the vital space, with this promiscuity in the very poor conditions. But the organic density, I think that for us is one of the pillars for the next development in cities. In reality, we don't need to continue to build the square meters. We need to reuse the square meters that exist today. This is the big difference.
So this is a question probably maybe on a lot of people's minds that are on here. Do you think it's too late for a city like Los Angeles? I mean, we've drunk the car Kool-Aid, and we're pretty drunk on it. What challenges, first of all, have you been to Los Angeles before?
Yeah.
Okay. And it's obviously, in some parts of LA, we do have a lot of density, but in many places we don't. So actually, let me ask the question a different way. Let's wave a magic wand. You're now advising the next mayor of Los Angeles. Where do you start in
very
a
Garcetti.
the next
very
mayor?
very close.
How would you even start to make Los Angeles a 15-minute city? I mean, where would you begin?
Yeah. Okay, very good.
I've just hired you.
Yeah, the prospective way. Michael, there are very essential points, and I think that this is a big difference between Paris and several USA cities. If we wanted to develop the 50-minute city with this idea, ecology, proximity, solidarity, citizen commitment. If we wanted to develop the organic density for developing the multi-purpose city, we needed to have the target to implement a polycentric city. The question is, in fact, how could we propose this multi-centered city? The enemy for our cities today is the urban segmentation, the urban fragmentation, because in fact, when we have observed the development with the city of Paris, even if this is a small city, this city is very, very fragmented because we have the district of the West with the corporate towers for executive people that work in the corporate towers. The east of Paris is the middle class, the north of Paris the working class of people, immigration, and the south of Paris, the middle and lower class. In Los Angeles, this is a city very fragmented, very segmented, with the very, very high difference in the level of the incomes. And if I have a magic wand in Los Angeles or in other city, I think that the most important transformation is to develop this notion for changing the policymakers based on the urban common good. I think that the urban common good is a key concept for developing an inclusive city, for developing the workable cities, for developing the ecological cities. In a nutshell, for developing a humanistic city. The 50-minute concept is a very powerful ecological concept because it's based on a humanistic way, because we want to put it the citizen dwellers at the heart of the urban policy, for offering, for surrounded of all kinds of services to live, to work, to supply, to care, to educate, to enjoy. But the enemy is the gentrification. The enemy is to develop a 50-minute city based on a selective organization by incomes, by high revenues, and to use the 50-minute concept for raising the price of the square meters for develop the speculative real estate market. And if I have a magic wand, the first point is to keep in touch the head of the policymakers for having a compulsory new urban policy based on the protection of the common good. The common good is a very powerful concept developed for the first time by the first woman Nobel Prize, the Economy Nobel Prize, Eleanor Ostrom, in 2009. she has been proposed this concept of the common good. What is the common good? The common good is the totality of material or immaterial resources, public or private, that we could use, develop with the more intensive uses in order to promote the general interest, even if we are living in a market economy, but the target is to avoid to live in a speculative or financial economy. And the common good is today the best way for transforming a polycentric city based on the 50-minute concept. What is the concrete measures with the common good? For example, in the city of Paris, we have a company 100% subsidiary of the city of Paris, the Semaestro. What is the Semaestro? Is our municipal commercial property. This municipal commercial property is the owner of 62,000 locations in the whole city. The target is to buy the square meters for renting it, for installing the local shops, for relocalizing economy, for creating jobs, for developing bookshops, bakery, handcraft, recycling point, one-point shop, etc., in the totality of city, because we have the possibility to rent these square meters with a price below the speculative real estate market. And this is precious. This is essential, because we have the possibility in the district with a very, very high price for the square meters to install the artisan, to install the handcraft, to install a bookshop, to install a recycling point, to install a bakery. And if I have the possibility to convince the mayors of the world, including the next mayor of Los Angeles, that the importance to develop the common good. Another example, the participatory budget. The participatory budget is a very powerful leverage for inviting the citizen dwellers to be involved in the transformation of the city. In the city of Paris, we have a participatory budget, 800 million euros, 10% of the budget, the totality of the city. You have the possibility in Los Angeles to propose a participatory budget. We have the possibility to open the mindset for citizen dwellers in order to develop tactical urbanism, placemaking, transformation of the places, to develop the multipurpose, etc. The other point of the common good, the social housing. We needed to reinvent the new model, the new economic model for the social housing. The last decisions of the mayor of Paris is to launch a new real estate for the social housing in Paris. And in this case, we have the possibility to sell only the flat, but not the ground. The ground is continuing to owner of the municipality, and the flat is people have the possibility to buy with the half price. This is concrete, the common good. And I think that in Los Angeles, for me, this is at the heart of the new urban policymakers. Because if we have this vision of the urban city, ecology, proximity, solidarity, commitment, we have the resources for developing the financial, the investment, etc. I think that this is the center of our battle.
Great. Well, listen, I want to take a few questions from the audience. My last question, really briefly, what can, well, let me ask it this way. I'm sure these changes in Paris are not without controversy. I'm sure there's some people that say, why are you making it more difficult for me to drive to my office? Why are you making it more difficult for me to drive to pick up my kid? You're destroying businesses. I'm sure there's many arguments like that. How have you guys overcome these arguments? Or are you doing what you believe is the right thing, you know, and just not even paying attention to those arguments and knowing that it will ultimately be for the common good?
Yeah, no, we need to listen to the totality of people in regardless of their point of view, because there are in all the circumstances people that consider the importance to have a drive car, to continue to use a drive car. In reality, our vision is very clear. On the one hand, we consider that we need to satisfy the common good. For that, a lone driver, it is for us one of the bad points. It is not possible to accept in a city as Paris, in the metropolises, to have one person in a car, because in reality these actions is equivalent to use only for me 20 square meters during my commute, only for me. The alone drive, we need to develop the measures in order to avoid this kind of car in cities. Of course, we need to propose the other solutions, the multimodality, the collective transportation, the mass transportation, but there are the technical solutions. In reality, we consider with the Mayor of Paris today and with the private sector, this is very important because this is the new situation post-COVID-19 pandemic crisis, that the real solutions for avoiding this reflex car is to propose a big bang of the proximity. The big bang of the proximity is in reality a decentralized city, and for beginning to propose the decentralized work. Several people know the incubators for the technological startups company. The incubators are the locations where people have the possibility to go 1 day, 2 days, 3 days to install and to work. We think of that in the next years, we have been emerging a new work life, new work style, in order to develop in several points of the city, in several locations of the city, the places for hosting the decentralized working, in order to have the possibility for going not in my corporate tower after 1 hour for going with my car or my mass transportation, but to only spend 50 minutes, and we have the possibility to arrive in my decentralized office, connected by the new technologies with my corporate office, and we have the possibility to go 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, and only to go to my central office when this is absolutely necessary. And today, this concept, the last 2 weeks, the International Work Group Place, based on London, has published a very important survey about the new mutations, the new transitions, about the jobs, the work. And this concept of the decentralized work, I think that it will be one of the key elements for reducing the use of the individual car, because the essential of the use of the individual car is for going to my job. And of course, for reducing, we needed to propose these new services in the city. And we will back with the common good.
Let me share my screen again, and we'll see if we can do a couple of audience questions briefly. Hold on. Okay. So this should be an easy one. What is the title of your book? And they hope it's been published in English.
Yes, I have the, in English, we could find my text, To Live in the Proximity in the Pandemic Times. This is the ebook we could download by the digital platforms. And this is one volume with 5 languages: French, English, Italian, Spanish, and Portuguese.
And do they just go to, is it carlosmoreno.net to find it, or where do you find your book?
In the digital platforms.
Okay.
Because this international multi-language book, we could buy only by digital platforms.
So Baba wants to know if you've ever visited LA and what your experience was like.
Yeah, my experience in Los Angeles is this big rise of the for city, the difference of the incomes, of the revenue, of the level. This is the big American metropolises, and the impressive highway with, I think, 12 or more lanes for cars. I think that Los Angeles is, for me, one of the experiences of this necessity of transforming, for changing our life. At the same time, this is the paradoxal city, because this is a young city, this is the multicultural city, this is the vibrant city, very cultural at the same time, students, very international, of course, at the heart of of California, with this soul, this open mind that we need today when we want to resist to racism, to populism playbook, to exclusions. This is, for me, one of the big metropolises in the world with this paradox. How could we coexist in between the different urban lifestyle?
It's also a paradox that the places in the world with the worst weather have the best bike infrastructure. And we have the right weather and not great infrastructure.
Right. Yeah, you're right. You're right. I'm very surprised when you explained the state of the city, because I think that this development of the bike lanes, of the protected bike lanes, because the question is not to have the bike lanes. The question is to have the protected bike lanes in order to ensure the safety conditions for biking.
Yeah. So I think this is going to be our last question. This is a really good question, because you talked a lot about bringing the bakery to where you are, so you don't need to travel across town. You can't really move the beach. So is this all about mass transit, or what are your ideas here?
Yeah, this is a very, very good question. Of course, because it's not possible to discuss about Los Angeles and California in general without consider the importance of the sunny, of the weather, of the good weather, of the beach, of the sport on the beach. And in fact, this is the same situation, for example, in the Mediterranean cities, because to go from my home to the beach, in general, involved a very important traffic. Because people in general prefer to use the individual car for going to the beach, because we have the different equipments for enjoying on the beach. In fact, I consider that if we wanted to fight against the alone driver, if we wanted to reduce the CO2 emissions, we needed to develop the alternative mode of transportation for going on the beach. And I think that with the new technologies, it is possible to develop the concept of the on-demand transport. The on-demand transport is the possibility to mutualize the private cars in order to propose the virtual lines, in order to propose this pool cars or pool sharing. And we need as well to have the possibility to decentralize the beach. In France, we have the problem because on the beach, the people prefer 1 point, 2 point, 3 points. And we observe very important concentrations in several spots, in the reduced spots. For that, we have promoted this idea to develop this decentralized spot on the beach in order to propose this desaturation of the public spaces, including on the beach. But the American culture is not the European culture. It's more difficult to transform this individual idea for how could you use my car for going on the beach. Even in France, it's not easy. I guess that this is one hard point for changing the mindset of people, that we could mutualize the infrastructures in cities.
Well, there's more questions, but unfortunately we're out of time. So Carlos, I just want to thank you. I know it's basically bedtime. So thank you for staying up late with us. And I just want to say, I think Paris is one of the most inspiring cities in the world right now in terms of the things we're paying attention to. So much changed so quickly. It's been amazing to watch, and I can't wait post-pandemic to go there and just see it. It's really exciting time where you are.
Thank you so much, Michael. Thank you to audience, and a very pleasure to share with you this night, because it's 10 p.m. now in Paris, but it's a real pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you, everybody. We'll see you next month. Appreciate it.
Bye-bye. Have a good, nice afternoon. Bye-bye.